It's now official. Italy, the only major Western power to have joined China's global infrastructure initiative, has decided to sever ties with China in 2024. Italian Prime Minister and her ruling coalitions seem to have finally bowed to the pressure by the US to cut ties with China. Rome has already written to Beijing informing the Chinese leadership of their resolute decision to discontinue BRI. The union had been highly criticized and condemned by the West and the US in particular. The US is against the rise of China and its influence in the world, and Italy joining hands with China in this initiative was highly frowned upon by America. The US still views China with suspicion, hence Italy was seen as a traitor. The US worried that by Italy allowing China to foray into the West, it could in the event make China easily access sensitive infrastructure and technology. But is this true? Italy's exit from BRI is purely out of geopolitical pressure. It has nothing to do with the true issues and desires of Italy's citizens. Domestically, Melanie deeps into a tough situation as she sacrifices national interests to supine hyper-Atlanticism. No wonder her government's approval rate is on a downward trend. If she doesn't propel her country in the right direction, it could mean dampening her political career and ambition in the coming future. 4 years ago, when Italy joined the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, then Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte had high hopes for a thriving trade relationship between the two nations. However, things did not turn out as projected. China, rather than Italy, has predominantly benefited, with its annual exports to Italy nearly doubling from $34 billion in 2019 to an impressive $62 billion today. In contrast, Italian exports to China experienced only modest growth, inching up from $14 billion to $17.7 billion during the same period. Proponents of Italy's exit from BRI are seizing upon these figures as a compelling metric to hasten the disentanglement of the initiative's ties with China. But what Italy doesn't see is that in China, there is the ease of doing business, and the cost of production is very favorable to investors. Its government has several financial stimulus packages that are of great assistance to businesses. These packages help transform businesses in China into economic powerhouses. This kind of support allows the Chinese to manufacture goods domestically and export them to Italian consumers at competitive prices. It is undeniable that there exists a huge demand for goods in Italy, a demand that remains unmet by domestic production. What Italy should do is revitalize its industries to meet the local demands of its people. If Italy imports more than it exports, it goes to show that the demand is there, but the local Italian capacity is not matching up. Simply exiting the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, won't resolve this issue. Another nation is poised to step in and fulfill the demand, perpetuating Italy's economic challenges. To add to that, Italy stands at a crossroads with a golden opportunity to tap into China's burgeoning market. The potential for substantial market growth in China exists for Italian machinery, equipment, services, luxury goods, and agricultural products. However, severing ties with China could mean losing out on this promising avenue for market expansion, with potential repercussions for Italy's economic prospects. And for those fervently advocating Italy's departure from the agreement due to perceived economic shortcomings, it's important to recognize that the Belt and Road Initiative operates as a free option. There's no binding obligation or commitment. It is, in fact, a flexible arrangement. Even if the anticipated benefits haven't materialized significantly thus far, Italy should stay the cause. The potential advantages are likely to manifest in the not-so-distant future. Moreover, Italy's increased imports from China play a beneficial role, particularly as a considerable portion comprises raw materials for the Italian manufacturing sector. This not only bolsters Italy's industrial capabilities, but also contributes to maintaining relatively low inflation levels. Hence, the act of purchasing more from China serves as a strategic measure in mitigating inflationary pressures. A clear benefit that has materialized is the enhanced image of Italy since forging ties with China. This positive perception extends to the Chinese government, consumers, potential tourists, and prospective buyers of Italy's fashion and luxury products. The bolstered image holds significant importance, functioning reciprocally. Should Italy decide to part ways with the BRI's Memorandum of Understanding (MOU), there is a risk of diminishing Italy's image in the eyes of Chinese consumers. This, in turn, could have adverse consequences on Italy's exports to China, as Chinese consumers often respond differently to countries based on the perceived friendliness or lack thereof. The diplomatic ramifications underscore the delicate balance Italy needs to maintain for continued success in its trade relations with China. As the first country that has withdrawn from BRI, Italy is going to be viewed by China with a lot of skepticism and curiosity. Beijing had hoped that Italy would have stuck with the BRI long term. China wants to extend its economic influence into Eurasia, part of the world, and to the whole globe overall. In the broader Chinese vision, there is an aspiration to revive the ancient Silk Road to facilitate commerce between China and Europe, with Italy strategically positioned as an entry point into Europe. However, it appears that the leadership in Europe this time wants to lean more into politics rather than practical realities. With this in mind, it is not hard to see that the relationship between Italian and Chinese companies is headed for a stormy downturn. But here is the painful truth not visible to many in the Italian leadership. The entities poised to bear the brunt are none other than Italian companies themselves. While the Belt and Road Initiative persists, continuing its journey with around 140 nations, Italy will find itself on the outside looking in. And what will be the consequence? Well, Italian companies will be excluded from BRI projects, a crucial blow to their prospects. For instance, a promising collaboration between Chinese and Italian construction firms on lucrative infrastructure projects in Africa was expected in the near future. The anticipation was noticeable, the potential immense. However, as the relationship between the two nations simmers with strain, can we realistically expect this grand vision to materialize? Your guess is as good as mine. The economic predicament in Italy mirrors a recurring trend in Europe today. Numerous industries face closure owing to the challenging economic conditions on the continent, with some European businesses even opting to relocate to China, where growth prospects seem more promising. Now the question is, are European leaders turning a blind eye to these developments? Can't they see what is happening right before their eyes? Just recently, European leaders headed to China, where they had a meeting with President Xi over the same matter, the trade deficit. It is reported that China is exporting more to Europe than what China imports from Europe. Confronting Beijing on the EU's substantial trade deficit, European leaders sternly declared their unwillingness to tolerate what they perceive as unfair competition from China. In response, Beijing issued a pointed warning to the EU, cautioning Brussels against the implementation of what they deemed restrictive trade policies, resulting in a seemingly insurmountable deadlock between the two sides. Observers dismissed the meeting as nothing more than a theatrical display of unwavering positions, leaving many to question its substantive achievements. Amidst the posturing, a prevailing sentiment emerges that the EU might be overly optimistic if it expects China to earnestly address the prevailing challenges. The trade imbalances conspicuously favor China, a heavyweight among the EU's largest trading partners. As tensions escalate, the resounding message to Europe seems clear: toe the line or brace for the consequences. As for Melanie, she has been a staunch opponent of BRI even before ascending to her position. She has termed it as a big mistake for Italy to get into Beijing's hands through the initiative. A stalwart advocate for right-wing populism in Europe, Melanie is on a mission to showcase Italy's allegiance to NATO, signaling a robust stance against perceived overreach from the East. Flexing her political muscle, Melanie's cabinet recently curtailed the influence of Chinese shareholder Sinochem over the iconic Italian tire company Pirelli, a move that could undoubtedly ruffle feathers in the corridors of power in Beijing. All these indicators converge on a single speculation that has been circulating widely. It appears that Italy is inclined towards aligning itself with the interests of the United States. Rumors have it that Melanie pledged to U.S. President Joe Biden earlier this year that Italy would extricate itself from the BRI, and true to her promises, recent events in Italy seem to be steering decisively in that direction. The Belt and Road Initiative advocates substantial investments in infrastructure, encompassing projects like roads, bridges, and ports, with the aim of reviving the historical Silk Road trade routes connecting Europe and Asia. Detractors portray the plan as a means for Beijing to extend its geopolitical influence, often by burdening less affluent nations with debts deemed unsustainable. To this end, China has objected vehemently against the smearing of its noble endeavor, which is BRI. President Xi even warned Europe in the recent face-to-face meeting with its leaders in Beijing that Europe should not engage in confrontation with China due to their different political systems. This indicates that Europe, Italy included, is merely playing politics. If Italy were to put politics aside, maybe its cooperation with China would have a better outlook as envisioned in the BRI. Since its inception, the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, has been welcomed with open arms by many countries worldwide. More than 75% of the countries around the world have signed up for the initiative. It is clear as day that the projects within the initiative have turned around many economies across the globe, albeit a few that had difficulties in repaying Chinese loans. However, such few countries here and there can't tarnish the broader, beautiful picture of the BRI's impact in many sections of the globe, particularly in the global south. As the only country in the G7 country to have signed the Memorandum of Understanding MOU on the Belt and Road Initiative, Italy has substantially enhanced its priority in China's foreign relations and elevated the status of China-Italy relations within the broader context of China-EU relations. This move has engendered numerous direct and indirect positive effects. Moreover, it has strategically positioned Italy in a unique and advantageous role, serving as a bridge between the East and the West. From a pragmatic standpoint, and solely considering Italy's national interests, there is no doubt that joining the BRI has been undeniably beneficial. On the flip side, the approach taken by the US, characterized by exclusivity and guided by unilateralism and protectionism, ultimately proves detrimental to the economies of European countries, Italy included. In stark contrast, China champions the principles of free trade and an open economy, which constitute the genuine core values of cooperation, especially within the framework of the BRI. In the grand scheme of things, Europe may play politics of decoupling, de-risking, and many other workarounds as much as it wants. Still, one thing is for sure: China's sheer magnitude, its staggering trading numbers, and its array of global partnerships won't be dictated by the whims of Western policies and actions. Like it or not, the undeniable reality is that 70% of the future global GDP growth will come from Asia. The stage is set, and the world order is unmistakably shifting towards the East.